Good afternoon, good day, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Hello, everyone. We are getting ready, hoping that they will live stream the pre-court motions hearing, because what I just read about it, I'm I'm just flabbergasted. Apparently, we're almost finished the state case, and Judge Beresky is asking Lori about her witnesses, and she doesn't know who got subpoenas. She doesn't know who's been served. She apparently she signed a bunch of subpoenas. She didn't check to who they were going for, because apparently rumor has it that Larry Woodcock received one, and he's on the victims, like he's victim has victim rights, and his address and all that shouldn't be published publicly and this stuff. And she just told the judge he's not being subpoenaed to be on the witness list at all. It shouldn't have went to him. It was a mistake. That would be the third mistake. Brandon Bardot, Bobby, Vallow yesterday, and now Larry Woodcock. What the hell is she doing? I heard the judge told her for the next trial coming up on the attempted murder of Brandon Bardot that she needs to do better. This is a mess. This is a mess. Now, the prosecution should wrap up by Thursday at the latest, which means the defense's case is going to start Monday. How? Judge is trying to find out who actually is coming in, if anyone can come in as a witness, because the prosecution hasn't actually got any discovery on anything. Yep, she's throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping it becomes fettuccine alfredo, chop suey, something. I'm with you, Couch. I have no idea. Hello, Mrs. Cassandra, Katie, Liam, Arnold. I hope that straightened it out for you. It is very confusing. This woman is perpetually on trial. You know what? And I hate to tell you this, but she had a husband before Charles Vallow that died too. That Alex Cox, there's time for tasering him, in an attempted plot to taser him, kidnap him, and murder him also. And then he mysteriously died of a heart thing later. And now that we've heard testimony that Lori likes to grind up pills, I'm getting Black Widow vibes. Maybe she actually, I don't know. That's short, I don't want to speculate. Well, yeah, I do, because it is in my head that perhaps there was some really bad business going on there too. I mean, obviously, since Alex did actually taser him and spent time in jail, and there's that phone call from his ex-wife Debbie to the investigators, talking about all of this and the weird relationship between Alex Cox and Lori all along. Hey, Jen. Hey, Shill. Welcome. Good to see everybody. Liam says she should have been doing better years ago. Then we would not be here. This is true. We would not. It is entertaining, though, isn't it? I just can't believe the amount of loss around this woman, and not her loss, for everybody else. The amount of lives she touched and destroyed. Literally destroyed. And she's just acting like this is the best stuff, there in the courtroom, it's so great, so she has all this attention. And I need to see her frown more. I need to see, although it does look like she's aged since the start of this trial a good number of years. She does not look so great. She's not smiling so big like she does for those interviews or when she first came into the hearings. She's not able to push Judge Beressky around. He's holding her to the fire now. And he is being decent about it. I will say that. And a lot of people think he's giving her too much leeway. I say he's given her enough rope in actually protecting himself against appeal and overturn, as he should. Just like yesterday, when he could have embarrassed her in front of the jury by telling her that that rule does not exist for the objection that she wants. But he didn't, because that would really come off bad in front of a jury. He waited and talked to her after, and that's respectful, as he should. That's his job, is to balance the whole thing out. Chin says, I seem to be hearing the term X a lot for a group of religious people. Guessing marital vows are only. I guess so, since while she was married to Charles, she got into the affair with Chad Daybell, and they did stuff at the temple. Okay, and she said she didn't have to repent for that because Jesus told her it was okay, because she had been married to Chad in a previous life and they were connected. They were the chosen. Yeah, like I've heard some excuses for an affair, and I've heard some delusionals for not taking accountability. Well, this Lori Vallow takes the cake. That's got to be the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Oh yeah, she's translated, which doesn't even exist in the Bible. It's transmuted. It's transmuted. And the only one who did it was the Lord. I mean, spare me. Yes, the entitlement, the arrogance is just crazy. I mean, they lock people up for this. Most schizophrenics, have these kind of delusions about talking to Jesus and, voices that tell you to do stuff. Well, she passed the competency to, so then she got to be pro se. I mean, this time around. And she was really upset at the last conviction. Hey, Beck, you've been lurking? Well, good afternoon, lurker. Hope you're doing okay. Been a while. Been a hot minute. This trial's crazy, dude. I'll tell you that. Like, I was looking back and somebody asked me for some links to coverage. I didn't realize how many videos I've done on this from the beginning. I have three playlists on this. I have one of just Lori's trials, one of Chad Daybell's death penalty trial, and then one of all the shenanigans together. It's insane. It's literally insane, I don't know how. I don't even know how I keep it straight, but I know we're in Arizona, in Maricopa County, and we're waiting for the court feed to go live to hear the motion hearing, which is like one of my favorite parts. Yeah, and I want to see if Judge Beressky got good sleep. We started yesterday. He looked well rested, but by the end of the day, he was like, "I have had it with this one." You could just tell his face drops a little, and he looks quite tired. And every once in a while you can catch his eyes, when she says something or does something, and she goes at the witnesses, but he's not going to let her go at law enforcement really rough on the investigation. He's got parameters about it. Like, you have to have evidence. You're not going to be throwing accusations out there with nothing. And that's Lori's problem, is that she wants to just get all this in there. She wants to testify while she's asking questions. We've seen her do it from day one because she has no witnesses to bring forward. She has no evidence to bring forward. Welcome those coming in. Hey, just Rhonda. Hello, Maggie. Good to see everybody today. Thank y'all for coming to keep me company. I do appreciate it. I'm going to try to mute more. I got a message yesterday that I could be heard cursing under my breath. I do. That's going to be one of those sorry, not sorry things. But this case is crazy. It's really kind of hard for me not to drop the mic once in a while. Yeah. Liam, it keeps freezing on you? I don't know why it would do that. Why is it doing that? Is it your device? Are you using your tablet? Yeah. Yes. Oh, yes. Accusations without evidence. Jeez. There you go. I don't want to bash anybody's religion, but at least, like, evidence would be nice. You're good. I'm gonna behave better today than I did yesterday. I'll try to sit on my hands. It's not a problem, like Rhonda. Like, I appreciate the help. I just do, I just like to control my information. But you're spot on with your information, so I have no problem with it. Us true crime buffers. You know how we are. You have your own channel. You know how it is. Yeah. No, actually, everybody just, have your conversations. I'm not trying to stop that at all. I didn't say anything. You didn't hear me do anything. Yeah. Behaving can be boring. Just say it. That's like Leah said, don't you dare behave. Like, why? What are we gonna do? You know? Mm. So, just a reminder, the bingo card links are pinned to both chats for Twitch and for YouTube. Sorry, you all out there on X listening. Well, that's what you get for being over there and not following me over here on YouTube or Twitch. You don't get to play bingo. Come on over here and give me a follow and we'll talk. But yeah, but anyway, and Couch Rocket Couch did a great job updating the live trial bingo. There's some new stuff on there, you know. The infrequent outbursts just let us know that we aren't the only ones cursing at the screen. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for understanding, Liam. I mean, I do have to watch that I'm mute this stuff because, like, I'm just over here like whistling through my teeth and just dropping stuff and going, she did not. Like, what? What is this? Like, and I have to say, like, oh, they're getting ready. Like, I just saw it pop and then not pop. Like, let's hope it comes back in a second. It better. Let's just see. I'm gonna bring that. Okay, I'm bringing the feed up, guys, because it may go live any second now. It might be live right now. So let's just see. Oh, nope, he brought it down again. I wish he'd stop. Okay, wait. He brought it up. I don't know. Do I trust it? Yeah, let's go for it. Worst case scenario, it's not actually up. But I don't want to miss this hearing. Here we go. All right. So we can hear them as soon as they come. There's our seal. So the feed is up. Hopefully we get to hear the hearing because I heard we're going to see Miss Vallow Daybell is going to be a little uncomfortable with how the judge approaches things in his very nonchalant manner. But if you read between the lines, if you actually catch his tone in the words he uses, he definitely is definitely wearing thin on her. I think he's done with the shenanigans. What? An ad? Are you kidding me? Okay, come on. Why do they keep doing this? All right, I'm just going to leave it up. All right. I'll come back over here. I'll leave that up. Oh, nope. He just brought it up again. All right, here we go. Are we live or are we Memorex? Like, what's going on here? Here's the cameraman playing with us again. Dude, this cameraman. Yeah, thoughtful. Do you like the thoughtful bear there, Liam? It was that or the smack my head bear, and like I wasn't ready for that yet. That'll probably be during the defense. I'm glad you caught it though. You paid attention. I've been trying to entertain y'all with some little things. Breaking in a new avatar slowly, slowly. Rocket Couch, that is absolutely adorable. How did you get that emote to do that in Twitch? That is so cute. It's so cute. I can't wait to do custom emotes over there in Twitch because they move. That one moves. Just Rhonda says, I've never heard the word nonchalant as much as it's been said in this trial. I said, you know what? I haven't used it as much as I have lately either, actually. Oh, good afternoon, Judge Beresky. Okay, here we go. Let's bring that mic up, cameraman. Come on. Buckle up, buttercups. I heard that this hearing was, well, for us, it's going to be exquisite. If it is as advertised. Come on, where's our volume? I have it all the way up. There's Miss Vallow Daybell. Oh, she had her hair done this morning. You know, she should have spent more time preparing for the hearing that's going to happen than getting her hair done. But hey, I digress. Come on, please. Volume. Why do they not have the volume up yet? This is frustrating. I still hear nothing. I'm going to check another feed. Okay. The volume comes up in a second, and unfortunately, I'll have to add some later. I just heard him talking. Hold on.
The service of those subpoenas through the county attorney's office, they can facilitate in that and getting those people served if they are indeed witnesses that have relevant information in these cases.
And both of those people, Your Honor, Robert Vallow and Larry Woodcock, were not on my list and were not intended to be subpoenaed. So it was an oversight.
So I don't know how OPDS got that information to serve them subpoenas. So someone on your team needs to double check with OPDS that the correct people are being subpoenaed.
And Your Honor, they are signed by the defendant. So
all right.
She is the one who's signing those subpoenas. She is the one acting as counsel. So she is the one asking to send those out.
Yeah.
So how was it an oversight?
That's
I just signed them all and we got them prepared and I signed them all and I did not check them. It's my own fault. But I apologize to the families.
So do you know the names of all the people you subpoenaed, or you just signed a stack of subpoenas?
I did sign the stack, but I thought I was aware of all that they were the ones that I had asked to subpoena.
For this trial or for the next one as well?
Just for this one. We haven't done our subpoenas yet for the next trial.
I'll try. And for the next trial, I need you to be more diligent in what you're signing. And if there is a subpoena for someone who is a next of kin or a victim under the Victim's Bill of Rights, the subpoena that needs to be coordinated through county attorney's office, or is there a victim representative attorney? I haven't had one yet.
There is not a victim representative attorney, so it would come through us, Your Honor.
Okay. We sort of addressed the motion in limine yesterday about the questioning of any police personnel regarding the timing of the arrest, why the investigation took as long as it did, who was or wasn't arrested. Again, I'll ask the defendant, if you think those are questions that you need to ask, please ask to take a break first, but otherwise I'm expecting you to not ask those types of questions of any witness. We then have let's take up the Janice Cox and Summer Shiflett video. You've had a chance to review that?
I did.
What's your position on the state's motion?
Your Honor, I obviously think that it should not be precluded, that it is evidence in fact of why that happened on July 11th, that it happened. So if there had been no bat, there would have been no gun. It was a reason why self-defense was even an issue on that day, on July 11th.
Let me make sure I understand the state's position correctly. The state hasn't seen the actual video that these two witnesses have watched.
Correct. It
Right.
apparently.
So
was-
absent someone coming in and introducing the actual video into evidence, which could have its own evidentiary issues, but absent that, they can't testify in court about things they saw on a video because it's hearsay. They're testifying to things that they observed outside of court, and there's no verification, no way to cross-examine on that. So my ruling would be that unless some video comes in and someone lays foundation for that video, that no witness would be allowed to discuss what they saw, heard, or viewed in that video. All right. Then we have the state's third motion to preclude defendant's witnesses. Let's discuss. I'm going to ask you again, Ms. Daybell, how do you pronounce the first person's name? Baisa? Baisia. Has your team or your investigator, anyone been able to locate that person?
I would have to check with my investigator, Your Honor.
What about Gabriel Bonilla?
I know that he has made contact several times with Gabriel. I don't know if he has interviewed him, but I know that he's made contact with him several times.
Do you know if he's been served with a subpoena?
We're looking that up now.
And while you're at it, I'm going to ask about Ashlyn Rind and Barry Cox.
Okay. What does it say? So it looks like that Ashlyn Rind was not served or found, that Gabe Bonilla, OPDS, several times tried to serve that subpoena and it has not been served. And I'm not sure on the Barry Cox.
All right, well, as was indicated by the state yesterday, they may be resting their case in chief sometime Thursday, at the latest Monday. So you're kind of out of time on producing these witnesses for interview. I shouldn't say you're kind of out of time. You are out of time. I don't know that I need to effectively preclude them because you haven't been able to serve them or get them to appear, in which case they wouldn't be called as witnesses. In the event that they are served or surfaced, we'd still need to have a discussion of whether they have any relevant information and whether they should still be precluded because of the late disclosure of what that testimony might be. So unless they're produced to the state for an interview here within the next day or two, they would be effectively precluded. Even if they are produced for an interview, they still could be precluded. Zachary Cox, let's talk about Zachary Cox. Has he been subpoenaed? The state has interviewed that witness apparently, but based on their motion, they don't believe he has any relevant information to offer for this trial. Do you believe he has relevant information to offer?
I do, Your Honor.
And what is that?
He was with my brother, Adam Cox, that day on the 11th and was in communication with Adam and Charles during that day and prior to that day.
At Grainger, we have over 1 million products, including the one.
What is going on with this feed? That's it.
Either self-defense or this.
I have to switch feeds, people. That's going to make me nuts.
He would be able to testify about what Adam already testified to, verify it or unverify it.
What specifically?
I am definitely
About
switching
what
feeds.
their itinerary was during that day and the day before and the following day.
When did this, well, the state interviewed this witness?
Obviously, I had no idea what he would be called about. So I talked to him for a few minutes.
Did he have any idea what he would be called about?
No,
All
I
right.
think unless the defendant says that he's relevant to impeach Adam in some way, then I don't really understand the relevant. I mean, she just said that he could be testify to verify what Adam said. So she's going to call him to confirm that what Adam said was correct.
Is that he would be confirming what Adam said, or would he be disputing what Adam said? What specifically? Can you give me some more specifics?
From his interview with my investigator, he would be disputing what Adam said.
Well, then I'm not aware of that interview. With my understanding in interviewing the defense Jeff White, is that basically they spoke for a brief time. It got heated.
Who's
and
they?
Jeff White and Zachary Cox. They did not have a full interview, is my understanding. I've not been provided with a recording of that, but in my discussion, my interview of Jeff White as a potential witness, he advised just that they
Jeff White is the investigator.
advised that he had lived with them, meaning Charles and Lori, prior to them moving into this house, prior to them being separated. That's about the extent of what I understood their interview to be. But maybe Mr. White can provide information as to how he.
Mr. White, do you have any information on, you interviewed Zachary Cox?
Yes.
All right. And did Mr. Cox provide information that would be relevant to this trial to you?
When I spoke to Mr. Cox, he was, in short, he was very belligerent. When we had spoken, I was asking about information about his father and him, as well as with Charles. The information that I did obtain from him did not agree with what his father had told me in the interview through the state.
His father being?
Adam.
Do you know if Zachary Cox has been served a subpoena?
As far as I know, I think that went through OPDS.
All right. I guess we'll see if he actually gets served and shows up at court. He may not, in which case it's not an issue I need to deal with. But if he does show up, we will need to flesh out whether he has relevant information, whether he should be allowed to testify.
Zachary is Adam Cogley's son. Her
All right,
other
who's the
brother.
state going to be calling today?
Your Honor, at the state, obviously, we still have a witness on the stand. And then, as I advised, we'll be calling Ariel Werther. And then we would call Detective Duncan. So we
Okay.
may finish tomorrow, Your Honor.
Okay. My staff just signaled me that the last juror did just show up. Okay, we'll bring the jury in. Let's have that witness come back up.
Okay, I'm going to check out the other feed real quick, people. Okay, hold on. We are switching feeds because this is making me crazy with the commercials. There's no way I'm having that keep jumping in. That's never happened before on that feed. That's just insane. Like, it should not be. Okay. While they're bringing the jury in, it's only okay. Here we go. This is going to be better.
Cross.
Okay. Here we go. Hopefully, can you guys hear it okay? Is it loud enough? I have it all the way up. Yeah, I have it all the way up.
Detective Ynclan, yesterday we were talking about the chain of custody of the phone, so I have a couple questions on that. Yesterday we talked about that Charles' phone went from your hands to the property room, is that correct?
No.
Okay. Where
When
did it,
when I explained to you, it's our computer crimes division, the
Okay.
detectives that do the downloads. Our property room is about a mile away from the police department.
okay. So it went from your hands to the computer crimes division, is that correct?
Correct. We usually take phones directly to them.
And how long was that between the time you left the house and you delivered that phone to them?
It's about 20-minute drive or so, and then just to the PD and upstairs to where their office is.
Okay. And who did you turn that over to at the computer crimes division?
Sergeant Olness was the sergeant of the unit at the time.
And did you use the passcode to access the phone at all?
I did not. I don't do downloads or exams of devices.
Okay. Did you look to see if the threatening text messages from Charles did actually exist?
I did not do an exam of the phone.
Yesterday, we watched the clip of my interview with you, and we discussed the threatening text messages. Is that correct?
Correct. You told me about them.
And you stated that I did not show them to you. Is that correct?
You did not show them to me, no.
And did you ask me to show them to you?
I did not.
Had I been cooperative all that day?
Yes.
Do you think I would have shown them to you if you would have asked me?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Was Tylee also cooperative that day?
I believe so.
Was Alex cooperative that day
I don't know. I did not have contact with Alex.
at all?
I did not interview him or talk to him, no.
Did I, in fact, inform you during that interview that I would have to show you them to explain them?
I believe so.
But you never asked me to show them to you?
I did not.
Did you ever request that I turn my phone over to you?
I did not.
Did you ever request that Tylee turned her phone over to you?
I did not.
In the course of your investigation, did you ever, in fact, see those threatening messages from Charles to me?
I did not. I did not look at any of the downloads of any of the phones.
Or in the reports or anything?
No,
You never came across those?
I did not review those reports or do any of the downloads of any of the phones.
You didn't review any of Detective Duncan's reports?
No,
None of Detective Moffat's reports?
no,
Okay. Were you aware of the reason why I had two phones at the time?
I was not.
Did you ask me?
No, I wasn't aware you had two phones.
In the course of your investigation, did you ever learn that Charles had stolen my phone, so I had to replace it?
I'm going to object to testifying and move to strike.
Sustained.
Your Honor, it's all part of the investigation.
I'm going to object again.
Sustained, it's testimony. The form of the question was testimony.
Were you aware that after he gave it back to me that I kept both phones?
I'm going to again object.
Sustained.
Detective, in the course of your investigation, did you learn that Charles had a $2 million life insurance policy on me?
I knew there was a life insurance policy. I don't know the amount.
Did you ever see it in any of the reports or?
I did not review and I was not part of that portion of the investigation.
And you never saw that on any kind of Bates numbers?
I'm going to object again to asked and answered.
I'll allow it. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You didn't see it on any kind of Bates numbers?
No, Bates would be what the county attorney does. That's after me, so I didn't review that portion of the report.
Okay.
She's questioning other.
Yesterday, during your direct, you said that, or during our discussion, you said that we arrived at the Chandler Police Station and that we were taken into the Family Advocacy Center. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is that what it's called?
Yes, the FAC or Family Advocacy Center.
Okay. And was that just Tylee and myself that were taken to that part of the station?
I believe so, yes.
And so was Alex taken to the regular part of the police station?
He was in a different portion in an interview room in the persons crime section downstairs.
Okay. So we were taken into 3 different rooms, is that correct? When we arrived?
3 different interview rooms, yes.
And we were all 3 interviewed, is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
And you interviewed me, is that correct?
I did.
And you also interviewed Tylee, is that correct?
I did.
And Detective Moffat is the one that interviewed Alex, is that correct?
I believe so.
And these interviews were all video and audio recorded, is that correct?
I believe so.
And did you have a supervisor or superior there at the Chandler Police Station watching these interviews live from a viewing room?
Not a supervisor.
Who was it?
There was a detective in sex crimes that was monitoring the interviews in the Family Advocacy Center. It's kind of standard, particularly the fact that Tylee was alone in the interview room at some point. So she was monitoring both interviews, and I don't know if there was anybody monitoring Detective Moffat's interview because I was not a part of that.
Okay. And what was her name? Detective what?
Ashley Nolan.
And then you said that you had, so you didn't go in and monitor during the interview with Detective Moffat and Alex? You didn't watch that one?
No, it was going on at the same time. I couldn't interview you and Tylee and monitor at the same time.
And then that means that Detective Duncan wasn't monitoring yours either at the same time, correct?
I don't know what Detective Duncan was doing.
I meant Detective Moffat, I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't know. I believe he was talking to Alex, but
But he could have been monitoring yours and then talked to Alex after that, is that correct?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Were there other people in this monitoring room that you know of?
I believe Detective Nolan was monitoring from her desk as the sex crimes detectives work within the Family Advocacy Center. They're in the same portion of the building.
Okay. So they can just monitor from their desk?
Correct.
They're not in like a separate room, is what you're saying?
No, there's a monitoring room upstairs in the dedicated suspect interview rooms, but none of those rooms were used in these 3 interviews that you're talking about.
Okay. And after these interviews were complete, who decided to send us home?
Well, I decided to drive you guys back to the house.
And who gave you authorization to release us, I guess?
Me?
You didn't have to talk to a superior for that?
No.
And what about Alex? Who released him?
That would be Detective Moffat was involved with his interview. I was not.
So did you and Detective Moffat have a discussion on what to do next after our interviews were complete?
Briefly, that we were done with the interviews and that at this point, whether or not to get you back to the house and how we were going to facilitate that.
Okay, but it was decided at that time that we would be brought back together and taken in the van to back to the house and dropped off?
It was the easiest way to get the 3 of you back at the same time.
Are you aware of the press release that was issued by Chandler Police Department later that day?
I am not.
You never read it?
No.
You never heard about it in the course of your investigation?
The press release?
Yeah.
No.
You never discussed it with any of the other detectives?
I would object. She's asked and answered.
Sustained.
Would the case agent have to be the one who would authorize that at the time?
It depends. As a case agent, we would like to have input or influence on what a press release is or states, but occasionally they're published by our PIO, our Press Information Officer.
So do you know if Detective Moffat was the case agent at the time, is that correct?
He was.
And so do you know if he talked to the PIO and put that out or if he didn't know?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Do you know if the PIO agent just put it out?
Objection, she doesn't know about this.
Do you know?
I have no idea.
Right.
Detective Ynclan, yesterday the prosecutor asked you several times, why didn't Lori just give the phone back? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you learn in your investigation that the entire altercation only lasted a few minutes?
That'd be a fair assessment.
Because we discussed that in our interview, is that correct?
We did.
So from the time Tyler came out with the bat and I ran outside is maybe less than 2 minutes. We discussed that. Is that correct?
We discussed that it probably happened in a short amount of time. I don't think we gave a specific time amount to what happened, but that it happened in a relatively short amount of time.
We didn't say that was like 1 to 2 minutes, like,
That was our discussion, yes.
yeah, that was our discussion. Okay. So we would not have been arguing for a very long time. Is that correct?
I think it's relative as to how long you've been arguing or how long the altercation took.
Detective, in the course of your investigation, did you learn that JJ was outside in the car?
I did.
Did you learn that the car was still running?
I don't know.
Did you learn that JJ was in fact in the front seat?
I know that you had articulated he was put into the car, but I don't remember if you specifically said the front seat, but he was in the car.
Did you learn in the course of your investigation that JJ had autism?
Yes, you told me about that.
Did you verify that at his school?
I did speak with his school, yes.
When did you speak with the school?
During the course of the investigation, I had contact with the school in reference to when he attended and generally kind of the services the school provides.
Do you remember who you spoke to at the school at all?
The director of the school, and then subsequently, there were a couple teachers that provided some information.
And how long after July 11th was that first communication with the school?
It was just several months later.
But during the course of this investigation, the Chandler Police Department did verify, I guess that next day, that that was in fact his school and he did attend there. Is that correct?
I believe so.
During this investigation, did you verify that we did in fact go through Burger King?
I did not, but it was verified.
Were you aware of what we ordered at Burger King?
You told me it was chicken fries and Sprite.
Had you seen, you hadn't seen that receipt?
I had not.
Okay. I guess that was in fact in the portion of one of the interviews that we watched yesterday. Is that correct?
Correct. You told me that in the interview.
So were you aware that we also ordered 2 bottles of water?
I was not aware, no.
And in your experience with people in stressful situations, when adrenaline kicks in, does it make you incredibly thirsty?
I don't object to speculation or knowledge.
If she knows, she can answer.
It can.
And when you're in fight or flight mode, does your adrenaline kick in your experience?
I'm going to object here to knowledge and foundation as to her knowledge of this.
I'll sustain the objection.
Did you offer Tylee and I apple juice at the Chandler Police Station?
I think I offered you something to drink and what we typically would have there.
Did you offer that for the purpose that adrenaline makes you thirsty?
No, I usually do it to people I interview if they'd like something to drink while they're there.
Detective Ynclan, have you ever seen me not calm?
I don't object to maybe foundation as to when.
All right, sustain, lay more foundation on when she has, at what occasions she has had to observe you.
Well, yesterday, you spoke often of my calm demeanor, my nonchalantness. Is that correct?
Correct.
So has there ever been an occasion when you have seen me when I was not calm?
Again, foundation as to when she has seen her on July 11th.
Please, please clarify the time frame you're referring to where she had an opportunity to observe you.
Any other time, Your Honor?
For example, how many hours on July?
Can we have a sidebar? Can I ask you a question?
Oh, oh. Sidebar, like, because I don't know what I'm doing and I need direction. Well, the judge is not allowed to give you attorney advice. You should be speaking with those attorney counselors at your desk a little more often. And you should have conferred with your investigator as soon as you got in there. There was a motion hearing. Like, how frustrating. They're all sitting there and she doesn't have the information, which means she didn't ask. Like, that motion hearing frustrated me to no end. And I am going to find a complete clip of it and put it out, like, just by itself, because I think it's important. And I'm frustrated with the other feed. Commercials in the middle of a... Jeez. My goodness. I do think that in redirect, Treena K will be able to bring this back around to the actual testimony and evidence that this witness has brought forward. I don't know what Lori's getting at. She's trying to get at that they were really upset because they drank water. Like, I get that. You do get thirsty if you are under a lot of stress or whatever. It's a stressful situation. Anyone in an interview at the police station, right? You know, it's an uncommon area. It's not something you're used to. It's you've got figures of authority all around you, watching everything you do and say. So it's normal to feel a little bit of stress. But for Lori to say that her mannerisms during this whole event were normal, but that's the thing, they were normal because she knew what to expect, because she had planned it. That's the point. I pay for premium also, Rhonda. That's why I can't believe that came through. Like, it shouldn't have. Well, because, you know, even if it is the feed, I'm the one playing the feed. It should not come through. I get it. I mean, there's ads on mine too. Like, you know, there's not a lot you can do once you're monetized to minimize them. You minimize them the best that you can. At least I do. I know, you know, others, like, I just try to keep it minimal. But even if I don't even turn monetization on now, because I qualify for monetization, they put more ads on it. YouTube puts ads on it regardless of what you do. So there's going to be somewhere, no matter what. I agree, Maggie. Lori does not have any valid questions for this witness. This is just trying to muddy the water the best that she can, which, in all honesty, is a defense attorney's job, to muddy the waters. We need reasonable doubt here. But Lori's got a bad habit of, she does it long enough to where reasonable doubt turns into, you're annoying us and there's nothing here and we can see what you're up to. Like, it's a fine balance. Thanks, Teresa. Yeah. Teresa, I sent you links on the back of yesterday's video that you asked for.
Detective Ynclan, did you discover in your investigation that I had run outside without shoes?
Yes, kind of.
And did you learn in that investigation that we had stopped at Walgreens and I did purchase 2 pairs of flip-flops?
Yeah, you told me that.
I mean, and that was verified later?
It was by a different detective.
Okay. You didn't verify that at Walgreens or at Burger King, is that correct?
I did not. That was a different detective.
Okay. And as part of your investigation, did you view the video of me going into the Walgreens to purchase the flip-flops?
I did not.
Okay. And how hot was it that day on July 11th, 2019?
Warm.
Like in the hundreds?
July in Arizona. I'd say it was probably warm.
Would it have been difficult to walk JJ to his class on the cement with no shoes on, do you think?
Objection relevance,
Uh,
speculation.
Sustained. I think the jury can draw their own conclusions about the temperature in Arizona in mid-July.
Detective, did you learn in your investigation that after taking JJ to his classroom that Tylee and I headed straight back to the house?
I believe so.
And that we met with police? Is that correct?
Correct. You
As soon as we
contacted
drove up, first contact was with,
Officer Krautheim.
yes, Krautheim. Okay, thank you. Detective, is it your understanding that we fully cooperated with the police?
You were cooperative with interviews with me.
That we did as we were instructed?
You, with me in your interview, you were cooperative.
And Tylee was cooperative with you as well, correct?
I believe so.
And that you had said yesterday that we were voluntarily interviewed by the police, is that correct?
Correct. You were not in custody.
Did we know that?
I believe so.
When we were placed in those interview rooms, did we know that we could just walk out and leave anytime?
You-
Was that explained to us, is my question.
You can ask that.
Can you say it again?
Was it explained to us at any time that we could just walk out of those interview rooms and leave if we had wanted to?
No.
Did I in fact ask you at one point if I could go to the ladies' room?
I believe so.
Detective, did we answer all the questions asked to us by the police that day?
By me, yes, I believe so.
And we were dropped off at home by the police, is that correct?
Correct. I drove you back to the house.
And we were given no further instructions, is that correct?
Just that we would be in touch with you at the conclusion of the search warrant.
Is it also correct that we voluntarily handed over Charles' phone to you when you asked for it?
Yes.
Did we delay in that or just do it immediately?
No, you gave it to me when I asked.
Was there any time, Detective, on July 11th, 2019, that we did not comply or cooperate fully with the police in their investigation?
In my interaction with you, you were cooperative.
Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Redirect.
I'm going to start with when you first arrived on scene. You were asked a lot yesterday when you first noticed the defendant. Were you standing there at the house just waiting and watching to see what cars would arrive?
No.
So when you first noticed the defendant you just happened to glance over and see another officer speaking with her?
Correct.
You were asked a lot about her demeanor that day, both when you first interacted with her, taking her over to the van, correct?
Correct.
Did Lori Vallow's behavior stand out to you?
It did.
Why?
So based on what was going on, that we had a homicide, her husband had been shot and killed, her brother was the one who shot and killed her husband. It was inside her home. Her children were at least partially present to this event. Her demeanor seemed odd given what was going on at the house that day.
So throughout this time, you're just noting her demeanor, right?
Correct.
You were asked about whether or not you were calm at the scene. Do you recall being asked that on cross?
I believe so.
Had you just seen your husband get shot
No,
inside your own home
no,
by your brother?
no,
You were asked if the other officers at the scene were calm. You recall being asked that?
I do.
Were you aware of any of them having just seen their significant others being shot
No,
by a family member
no,
inside their own home
no,
with their children present?
no.
So would it be difficult to compare the demeanor of the officers and yourself with that of, say, Alex or Tylee or the defendant?
It would be difficult comparison.
Not the same situation.
No,
You were asked a lot about Tylee's demeanor as well. Did you ever see her appearing to be panicked,
no,
overwhelmed with emotions?
no,
Was there anything about her demeanor or your interactions with her that made you feel she needed any type of medical treatment or medication or anything?
no.
The death notification that you attempted to make, I'll say. So to understand this, we're both Lori Vallow and Tylee inside the van.
They were inside the CR 288 van.
Okay. Can you describe for us what this van looks like? Is it like a minivan? What is it?
No, it's a larger, like 10 or 12 passenger vans, big, full size. So the doors open from the side to get into, I think there's like 3 rows of seating. And they use the van to bring services out, but also to transport people, and they have car seats and things like that.
Okay. So when you went up to the van, you opened the door?
Correct, the side door to open to get into the rear portion of the van.
And you were with your sergeant at the time?
Correct.
And you asked if Lori would come out with you?
I was trying to get her to come out of the van to talk to her outside of Tylee's presence.
Why did you want to do that?
I felt it was more appropriate if I was about to tell somebody that a family member died to deliver it to her. And then typically what we'll try to do is kind of formulate a plan as to how we're going to tell children as to what happened.
But before that, did Lori Vallow tell you something?
She did.
What did she tell you?
She said that she already knew because she was there.
And this was not what you were expecting to hear.
It was not.
You were expecting that she had no idea,
Correct.
that she rolled back up to this house and sees her brother out there but doesn't know what's going on.
Correct.
After you learned that she was there, did you now feel like you wanted to ask her what happened?
Correct. We wanted to, at that point, transition to not just like a death notification and contacting her, but now we're potentially looking at doing witness interviews.
Did you advise her that you wanted to take her to the station to interview her?
I did.
Did you advise her you wanted to interview her daughter?
I did.
And did you in fact ask her to come with you in a different vehicle?
I did.
She agreed to do that?
She did.
Now, how old was Tylee?
16 or 17?
And she was put in a separate room than her mom. Why?
So when you're going to do witness interviews or any interviews, you want to do the interviews separately. You don't want to interview people together. Obviously, even best case scenario, there's going to be some influence. So you want a good recount or statement from somebody that's their own statement. It's what they saw, heard, felt, not influenced by anybody else in the room or participating in like a group interview.
Were you aware when you were conducting this interview with Lori and with Tylee of the amount of time that had occurred from when she had left the house to when 911 was called to when she was eventually interviewed?
Generally, not specific, but I knew the general time.
Initially at the scene, was there a misunderstanding? Well, let me ask you. When you arrived at the scene that morning, did you understand that when the 911 call came in is when the shooting occurred?
I think that was believed or assumed at the time we got to the scene.
Okay. And was that still your mindset when you were interviewing initially Lori Vallow?
Correct.
So when you started to interview her, you assumed that when that 911 call came in, the shooting had occurred just prior to that?
Correct.
When you were driving Lori back to the police station to FAC for interviews, you again told us about her demeanor. Did that again stick out to you as unusual?
It did.
Why was that?
Again, this incident has unfolded and we're driving and she's just kind of chattering in the car, and given what was going on in the situation and how she was acting, it was just odd to me.
You were asked about, just on cross, whether or not you gave the defendant a specific time when she could come back to the house. Do you recall that?
I believe so.
Did you have any concept of when Detective Coons or Duncan would be finished executing that search warrant on the house?
No, and that's not an assumption we would do.
So you don't have, they don't tell you a timeline like, hey, detective, we'll be done by 3 so they can come in?
No, because in processing a scene, you just don't know. So you wouldn't want to give that kind of time constraint when processing a scene. You're going to go through and very slowly and methodically collect and photograph and process. You're not going to limit a time. We typically try to give them an idea, maybe most of the night, several hours, but I wouldn't tell them a specific time to come back.
And your interactions with Lori, you hadn't even been in the house yet, right?
I had not.
So you have no concept of what the scene's going to be like.
Correct.
Or how long that might take.
Correct.
When you were interviewing the defendant, is it normal for you to offer drinks to people when they're being interviewed?
Absolutely.
Normal for you to allow them to use the restroom?
Yes,
And you did that here just like you normally would?
I did.
Nothing different or unusual in that?
No.
Detective, when you were interviewing the defendant on July 11th, did the defendant tell you that she and Charles argued about the phone prior to Tylee ever becoming involved?
Correct.
Did she tell you that she had initially obtained Charles's phone, and when he asked for it back, she said no?
Correct.
This is before Tylee's there.
That's right.
Does she tell you that she then in fact confronts Charles about who he's texting?
Correct.
And that's again before Charles is out there,
Before Tylee was there.
before Tylee is there. And she advised you that she still wouldn't give him back his phone, even though he demanded it then.
Correct.
Did she tell you that she was walking away with Charles's phone prior to Tylee coming out while he is still demanding his phone back?
Correct.
So there were multiple occasions that she told you about prior to any bat or gun being involved that she could have just handed the phone back over,
That's correct.
and she did not.
That's correct.
In terms of your interview with the defendant, did you understand all the facts of the case when you interviewed the defendant?
No.
You told us you didn't understand the timeline yet in terms of when the shooting occurred versus when the 911 call occurred, right?
Correct.
So you were unaware of that 47-minute lapse in time.
Correct.
If you had known that, would you have asked about that?
I would have asked about that, yes.
When you were interviewing the defendant, you were unaware that she had Charles's phone, correct?
Correct.
If you had known that, would you have asked about that?
I would have asked about that, yes.
When the defendant was talking to you, at one point, she told you that she knew her brother was texting with, or that Charles was texting with her brother Adam. Do you recall that?
Yes, she told me that.
Understanding now that she had Charles's phone, would you have asked her how she learned about that?
I would have asked her about that, yes.
So when you're doing an interview with her at 9 or 10 in the morning, you didn't know that she'd had time to look into Charles's phone?
Correct.
You learned later that she had the password to get into his phone, right?
Correct.
So when she's telling you things, you're unaware that she has already potentially had the ability to access those.
That's true.
And what she's telling you in her interview contained information about the interaction between her brother Adam and Charles.
Right.
When you interviewed the defendant, were you aware of the days leading up to this, the interaction between Lori Vallow and her brother Alex?
I was not.
You weren't privy to things like iCloud accounts before you interviewed her?
No.
You weren't privy to downloaded cell phones before you interviewed her?
I was not.
You hadn't even been inside the house before you interviewed her.
Correct.
If you had been privy to all of the information in this case, would you have interviewed her differently?
I would have.
Would you have questioned her more?
Yes.
Would you have followed up more?
Yes.
Would you have asked for her phone then?
Yes.
When you interviewed Lori Vallow, at that time, were you just going off of what she said because you didn't know the rest of the facts
Correct. It was an initial interview.
to see what she had to tell you?
Correct.
But you had nothing to do to be able to verify or validate anything she told you?
Correct.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
All right, I see we have a few jury questions. I think we're going to have the parties approach for those who are having difficulty with their headsets.
Okay, we're going to hear a little beep. This feed does, instead of the silence, every once in a while it does a beep to make sure everything's still working. But how frustrating is that? But Lori's crosses are just, they go round and round. I don't even know what she's trying to prove except for to make herself look better. Trying to say that, nothing to see here, you all got it wrong. trying to deflect away from the case that, of course, the state is trying to attempting and actually successfully laying down piece by piece. It's got to be so frustrating. This is good. Okay. I can only assume the jury just made the connection to why Lori asked the questions of Nancy Joe, like, did you ask my husband if he was a good kisser? I imagine they wondered how she would know that. Exactly. Because it was in the phone. Mm-hmm. Oh, she lied through omission and through trying to redirect focus. Exactly. Yeah. And I think the jury is smart. Like, I do think the average person can see this. But then again, are they going to feel for her because she's pro se? Is there not just a molecule of put yourself in her shoes, defending yourself against these horrible accusations kind of thing? I worry about jury sympathy, especially since Lori was so careful to make sure that there was a lot of gentlemen on that thing. I mean, I wish we could have seen the deliberations, or at least Lori's side of it, because they said she was off the chart, like trying to manipulate and use her cutesy, flirtatious ways. That little cute voice she uses with the judge here and there, it don't work on the judge. Yes, that's exactly it, Liam. She plays the victim. She wants everybody to think that everybody's being so unfair to her. This is just a whole big conspiracy against her. And she's innocent. Yep. Hi, Charlie. Welcome. You know what? I think anyone would have at least been affected, at least would have had moments of hesitation in speaking with people, like just trying to gather yourself. We saw none of that in the interview. We saw none of that in any of the testimonies of any of the officers. And by the way, there are only 4 Chandler Police Department officers left on the witness list. And as we heard, Treena K may even wrap up as early as tomorrow. We have 2 more coming forward today. And then I do believe we still have to hear from Moffat, Officer Moffat, like the lead guy, and someone else. He mentioned Nathan Dunker and Ariel Werther, and the other 2 on the list are Jason Hunsaker and Nathan Moffat. Those are coming right from the witness list that I didn't see them come forward yet. Detective Cassandra Ynclan is number 17, and they had listed 21 witnesses. So. I do hope they let us hear the jury question. If they wrap up tomorrow, that means Thursday. If there's court, we could have the defense start then.
Was the rent-a-car vehicle ever searched?
I do not believe so, but I'm not certain.
All right. Question form number 12. If the defendant and her daughter were interviewed as witnesses, why were they left with a victim advocate? In other words, were they considered victims or witnesses?
So our victim services section, I introduced Lori to them specifically because there are civilian employees that work within our police department that can help families with death investigations for the issues that come up afterwards and kind of navigating that process. So although they might not be classified under like state law as victims, our victim services section will often help our families with like specific crisis type events and navigating that process. So we use them quite a bit in our death investigations.
All right, on question form number 13, did Lori express concerns about police talking with Tylee at the time of the interview?
She did not.
Does law enforcement have to advise interviewees they are being audio and or video recorded?
They do not. There is no expectation of privacy within a police station.
All right, are there any further juror questions at this time? Not seeing any. Would the defendant like to follow up on those juror questions?
No, Your Honor.
State.
Just briefly, with regards to introducing Lori entirely to your victim services, were you trying to provide whatever services might be necessary due to the fact that her husband had been killed?
Correct.
And what you assumed at that point was Tylee's dad or stepdad had been killed?
Correct.
And again, this is all prior to you learning more about this case?
Correct.
No other questions, Your Honor.
All right, you can step down. The state can call its next witness.
Those were some excellent jury questions. Lori says, oh, you didn't tell us we were videoed. We didn't know we were being videoed and audioed. They didn't have to. You went to a police station. Exactly. Liam says this is just a part of duty of care in regards to Cassandra, Detective Cassandra Ynclan's actions. Actually, they were treated fairly, decently, as you would want to be treated based on a traumatic event just happening at your home, whether you're involved in it or not. Like that was a traumatic event, and everyone that they interviewed, I think that was great the way that she handled that. You would want that, you would want somebody looking at the effects of it, and making sure you had what you needed. But there's two sides to that. I mean, she also gets to give her interpretation of your actions and make note of things that just didn't seem right to her. Judge Beressky does look like he did get some good sleep, but he also looks like he's so done with this trial. I'm sorry. He's got that, is it over yet face on. Wondering how he can work on his karma so he doesn't draw the short stick next time. I don't know. It just.
State College Detective Ariel Werther. I may need to get some, there'll be a PowerPoint that he's going to do.
All right, sir, come on up. You're going to stand right here and be sworn in.
Can you spell your name?
Ariel, A-R-I-E-L, Werther, W-E-R-T-H-A-R.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
All right, have a seat up here to my left.
Oh. Okay.
One second. I could be able to get into Wi-Fi.
I do need to give the court reporter a break soon. Should we just do that now?
This might be a good time, Your Honor, just so I can get this set up and hooked
All right,
to.
why don't we have the jury go to the jury room for a short break? Please remember.
For the jury.
Okay, well, there's that. There's that. No, yes, you called it. There's definitely a break. So hopefully it's only a few minutes because we're gonna go into lunch like right after that, or we're gonna go longer. Maybe it will go longer before the lunch break.
Right,
But
please
I
be
guess the
seated.
court reporter
Jury's
couldn't
on
wait for lunch.
To complete the record, we did a
Uh-oh.
sidebar this morning at 10:42 a.m. At that sidebar, the defendant indicated she wanted to question the witness further regarding how many times the witness had observed her and her demeanor, which would necessitate the witness talking about observing her here in this trial, observing her on July 11th of 2019, as well as the trial in Idaho and possible viewing of interviews or social media posts. I advised the defendant that this is probably not a door she wants to open because the setting of those interviews would be relevant. For example, someone appearing in court intuitively might behave better than someone who's not appearing in court or in a trial. And the defendant said she would move on from that area. Is that an accurate recitation of the sidebar from the state's perspective?
Yes, Your Honor.
From the defendant's perspective?
Yes, Your Honor, that's fine.
All right, and then we did another sidebar regarding jury questions at 11:01 a.m. The first question, juror question number 10, as a detective, does your subconscious mind use a witness demeanor as any type of evidence? The parties agreed with me that that's probably not an appropriate question to ask, so it was not asked. Juror form question number 11 was asked. That was the question as to whether the rental car was ever searched. Juror question 12 was also asked I should mention, by agreement of the parties. And this was the question if the defendant and her daughter were interviewed as witnesses and the explanation between being interviewed or considered a victim versus a witness, which the witness answered. Question form 13 had 4 questions on it. The first question was not asked. Did Lori ever ask for an attorney during interviews of her and Ty Lee? The second question, did Lori express concerns about police talking with Ty Lee at the time of the interview? Neither side objected to that question, so it was asked. Question number 3 on form 13, do police need parental consent to speak with a minor even if being treated as a witness? Which the answer really is it depends, but it calls for a legal conclusion too for that witness. The state objected to it. The defendant did not. I didn't think it would be helpful with the jury in deciding any issue that's at fact in this case. So it was not asked. And then the fourth question on that form number 13, does law enforcement have to advise interviewees they are being audio and video recorded? Neither side objected to that, and that question was asked. Is that an accurate representation of the sidebar we had at 11:01?
Yes, Your Honor.
From the defense perspective?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so let's give the court reporter a break. We'll resume soon, probably about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then we'll push through to noon or maybe a few minutes after, depending on where we're at. Do you have everything set up now?
I would like to just try
Okay.
this to make sure it's working.
All right, we'll be at recess on a break for about 10 to 15 minutes.
Yep.
Okay. It's just, all right. So we're going to have a break for a little bit. But Katie, you're right. She wasn't that calm when she was been interviewing some of these witnesses, especially Nancy Jo Hancock. Like that was rough, right? She was definitely agitated. And there has been reporting from journalists that are in the courtroom that when Kay Woodcock was on the stand, while the prosecution was laying out the questions, Lori was really agitated at the desk. Like, she was really nervous looking. She was her foot was going a mile a minute. She's tapping her phone. She looked anxious. I think they used the word anxious and agitated, like not agitated, angry, just like worried, actually. I think she was intimidated, actually, because her questioning of Kay she really didn't go in. And I also think her brother also, there was a lot there too, a lot of tension. Yeah, I feel for the court reporter, actually. Could probably use their break to catch up to the real-time stream. I'm on a live stream that's pretty live. Like, it probably will come back sooner, but I have it like all the way over, Ancher. I switched over to a different stream, and so when it comes back, they'll come back. I was only a couple minutes behind them, but we shouldn't be behind at all now. Based on the stream I'm using anyway. I mean, I can only go by the stream we're using. For the record, that's Law and Crime now. It was East Idaho News in the morning, but it kept going out. Yeah, the court sets the delay at 30 minutes. And then it's up to the cameraman on each feed, like, how that will go. Yep. Yeah, I was looking over on are you on X too, Rhonda? I'm looking at everything that he's saying because he gives us some great details. The only thing he's not giving us that I really would appreciate more of is jury reaction. I want to know when they look at Lori. Like, I've heard a lot when certain things are said that they look directly at her at the table, like, especially when Kay was on the stand. No, it's just that we're all behind, but there's reporting from journalists that are in the courtroom that know stuff 30 minutes before we do because they're right there when it happens. The feed, based on the court order, it's got a 30-minute delay. And that's not unusual. I mean, a lot of courts are doing that. Yeah. Yeah, you're reading from his website, which is the same as what he's putting out on X. Yep. Yeah, yeah. Nate Eaton is the journalist that started East Idaho News. Like, they worked together like for 10 years. But he's been following since the children were missing in Idaho. So he's got on his channel quite a bit. On his YouTube channel, there's a lot of the evidence, a lot of the interviews, a lot of his own interviews with family members and people involved with the case, including the detectives and everyone involved in the Idaho case. It was reported that Colby Ryan, Lori Vallow's son, who has his own YouTube channel, has been in the court. And yesterday he was there with Detective Hermosillo and another detective from Idaho, and they were there to support him for this. And that was really, really hard yesterday with the medical examiner, especially for Colby Ryan. He felt very close to Charles Vallow. And this whole thing has really turned his world upside down, as you know. His whole family's dead. In his eyes, Lori destroyed everything. That's his mother. They were very close at one time. It's kind of surreal, he said, for him to be sitting in there. That's true. He did go to Hawaii, didn't he, just Rhonda? I forgot about that. He is the one that was asking her where the kids are. Uh-huh. And then they got served with the subpoena right around the same time. I saw a little bit of it, just Rhonda. I try to watch all that stuff after the fact, because if I watch it while it's going on, I get too emotionally involved with the proceedings and it kind of sets my day off the next day. I mean, I really feel for Colby in everyone involved in this case. It's so heartbreaking. I had a really hard time getting through the trial, Lori's first trial with the kids. Chad Daybell, I was a little more prepared because I knew what they were going to talk about. But to say that it was, I couldn't say it wasn't difficult. And it absolutely can get to a person. And I'm one of those people that it can absolutely just destroy. I know Katie, and she really she trusted her and she thought she was on her side. And that's unfortunate for Ty Lee to be betrayed in such a way. You know, people go back and forth on whether Lori had anything actually to do with the murders, or if she just knew about them. And as their mother, just knowing about them is bad enough. It's bad enough, especially since anyone who loved those children and had them in their lives, she didn't tell anyone. And she's still with the person who was involved. And to this day, she worships
All
Chad
right,
Daybell.
let's bring the jury in.
Oh, they're back. Here we go. They are bringing the jury in. So we will start now with the prosecution's direct of the next witness number 18, who I still have to hear him say his name. He was sitting there on the stand waiting. It's one of the four. I do believe it may be Nathan Duncan or Ariel Werther. I'm not sure if Ariel could be a man's name. But it's one of the two. It's Ariel Werther. Thank you very much. He's from the Chandler Police Department. I haven't looked over. Thank you. You saved me a trip over to X, Rhonda. It's
The jury is present. Please be seated. Go ahead.
Thank you. Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Hello, my name is Ariel Werther, and I work for the Chandler Police Department as a detective.
How long have you worked for the Chandler Police Department?
I've worked for Chandler Police Department since 2008. I did not become a sworn law enforcement officer until 2011. I've worked for them continuously since then. They're the only law enforcement agency I've ever worked for.
Can you tell us sort of the different areas you have worked and where you currently work?
So initially from 2008 to 2010, I was a police dispatcher. So if you called 911, I might be the person who answered, or I might be the person sending the officers and keeping track of where they were. And then in 2010, I went to the Arizona Law Enforcement Academy, graduating in 2011 as a sworn officer, returning to Chandler in that capacity as an officer. I worked as a patrol officer until, well, technically 2016, but the last 2 years of that I was assigned as a field training officer, which means that if you were a new officer out of the academy or somebody going back to the road from a specialty, you might ride with me for a while as I reoriented you to how things are done on the road. And then after doing that, I moved to the Special Victims Unit, primarily focused on investigating sex crimes from 2016 to 2020. And in 2020 and until now, I've been assigned to the Robbery Homicide Unit.
When you were with the Special Victims Unit, did you ever work with the Robbery Homicide Unit?
I did. In fact, from fairly early on, I was aware that this was something that I wanted to do eventually. So I made that known, and particularly working in detectives under the umbrella of persons crimes. You have your sex crimes, family crimes, robbery, homicide units, and they all tend to work rather close together. They get to know one another, and I made it known that I had an interest in testing when they had their next opening. So I did that in late 2019 and began my assignment in 2020. So leading up to that, it was something where if I had the opportunity to work with that team, I would do so.
Can you talk to us? Have you ever had any type of training in dealing with cell phones and cell phone GPS data?
Yes, I've had extensive training, much of it more recently. It's something that I certainly became aware of, and I have an interest in technology and what it can be used for in investigations. And so there were areas that I was aware of, particularly working in the Special Victims Unit. So starting from about 2016 on, it was in 2022 that I took my first 40-hour class on the proper interpretation, of cell phone records, specifically that might come from the provider. There's an important distinction between the location data that might be found on one's phone versus the data that a provider stores about our devices that can also be used to infer the location of the device. I took a 40-hour class primarily on that subject in 2022. And then in 2023, I took a 40-hour class leading to eventually becoming a subject matter expert in that area.
Have you previously testified in court about cell phone GPS data?
I have.
Have you previously testified in court about mapping GPS data recovered from cell phones?
I have.
In July of 2019, were you still in the Special Victims Unit?
Yes, I was.
And did you become involved in a shooting that occurred on July 11th of 2019 at 5531 South Four Peaks Avenue in Chandler?
I did.
How did you get involved in that?
I believe I was downstairs where we all work in a similar area and became aware that a shooting had occurred, that it appeared that one person was deceased, and I volunteered to come along. My capacity was more to shadow, to learn about how these investigations are conducted with the aim of testing. That's something that's best practice to do if you want to test for a unit. You ought to go out and see how the job is done.
So when you initially, did you go out to the scene?
I did.
And when you initially out there, who did you shadow at first?
Initially, I was at the scene with Detective Coons. I was present during the scene investigation, though again, as someone who was observing, I didn't personally impound anything or directly conduct the scene investigation myself.
Okay. At some point, as you are shadowing these, were you given different requests to help the detectives who are working this case?
Yes, although I'd say the extent to which I started going out and doing things, assigned tasks, really began the day after, on Friday the 12th.
So on Friday, July 12th, 2019, did you become aware that no one had obtained contact information for JJ Vallow?
That's right.
And did you offer to reach out to Lori Vallow to get that information?
I did.
Why did you need that information?
To have a complete and thorough police report, it's best practice to have proper documentation, name, date of birth, basic demographic information for all the people who are involved in a case, however they might be involved. Given the information we had at that time, he's someone who ought to be listed in the report.
Okay. Was he also known to be the son of the deceased victim?
Yes, that's right.
On the 11th, had you had any contact with Lori Vallow?
I did not have any contact on the 11th.
Okay. On July 12th, after you offered to get that contact information, did you make contact with Lori Vallow?
I did.
Did you see her or call her?
I called her at first.
And was that call recorded?
That call was audio recorded, yes.
When you spoke with Ms. Vallow, did you obtain the contact information for JJ Vallow?
Yes,
Did you learn from her where JJ went to school?
yes,
Did you confirm that she had gone to Burger King before taking JJ to his school?
yes.
Did you at some point during that conversation with Ms. Vallow learn that Charles Vallow was staying at the True Hilton Hotel?
Yes.
Prior to this, had you known that he was where he was staying?
I don't think I had any information either way.
Okay. So as someone who was separate, did you have any idea where Charles was, whether he was staying at the house or elsewhere prior to this?
I didn't have that information, no.
So you just learned this during your conversation when you're trying to get JJ's information?
Correct.
Did Ms. Vallow advise you that she was in possession of Charles Vallow's hotel room key?
She did.
Did she advise where she had found that?
In his wallet, I believe.
So you learned that she had Charles Vallow's wallet
That's what she said.
and that she then had a room key for him to True Hilton Hotel.
Correct.
Did you advise her that you would talk to the case agent and let her know who would go get that?
Yes.
After you spoke with Lori Vallow on the
Wow.
phone, did you offer to go out to the Burger King to see if you could obtain any video from there?
I did.
And when you are helping in this aspect of the case, were you aware at that time when the 911 call had been placed?
I was.
And when was that?
That was at 8:36 in the morning.
So you knew as you went out to Burger King that the 911 call was July 11th, 2019 at 8:36 a.m.
Yes, that's correct.
And were you aware when you went out to the Burger King of when the police had arrived at the scene?
Yes.
And was that within a few minutes around 8:41 or 8:42 a.m.?
Yes, that's about right.
And were you aware prior to going out there of when Lori Vallow had been shown or seen on body cam back at 5531 South Four Peaks?
I was.
And was that the 8:48 a.m.?
Yes, that's right.
So all of this is kind of a timeline you're considering when you're going out to Burger King.
Correct.
So when you went out there, were you aware of that? I guess when you went out to Burger King, were you also under an understanding that Lori Vallow had said she was at the house when Charles Vallow was shot?
That was my understanding, yes.
So did all of that play into when you would assume the timing of her arriving at Burger King?
It did.
So sometime after 8:36 is what you're expecting?
To some extent. I was aware that there's a little bit of a logistical difficulty in the question of how one could leave at 8:36 or at just after, and then arrive back by 8:48, knowing the distances and knowing the city of Chandler like I do. So because of that, knowing that it was clearly the case that she was there at 8:48 because she was on officer's body-worn video, then I knew that there was some chance I would find that the video was in fact prior to the 911 call, because otherwise the distances and the travel didn't seem quite right.
So you see this 12-minute time from when 911 is called to when she arrives back, and you're thinking that there's no way to go to Burger King and drop a kid off at school and get back?
Correct. One of the other things that I was trying to establish when I called her is where she had taken him to school, and to confirm that we hadn't misunderstood about the Burger King event happening after the shooting. Because if we hadn't misunderstood, and then learning where the school's approximately 7 miles away from the house. So the idea that one could in 12 minutes go to a Burger King, get their order, drive 7 miles one way, 7 miles back, and arrive in that amount of time seemed very unlikely to me.
So you're now going to Burger King to try to figure out when she actually went there?
Correct.
When you are going to the Burger King, were you aware of what vehicle she was driving?
I was.
Was that, again, body cam had shown what vehicle she had come in?
That's correct.
And was that a red Kia Sorento?
That's right.
So when let me ask you this, did you go to a Burger King over at 2865 East Ocotillo Road in Chandler?
I did.
How did you know to go to that one?
I chose that one because it was the closest one, and I wanted to make that logical assumption that that's probably where someone would go first, and then see if I found evidence there that that was the correct one.
All right, so you weren't given that information, you're just trying to figure out which Burger King it was.
Correct.
Did you ask to see if they had surveillance video from the morning of July 11th?
I did.
So you're there on July 12th?
Yes.
When you look at surveillance video at a place like a Burger King, do you ever verify that the date timestamp on that video is accurate?
I do. We very commonly find that at various places, the level of accuracy to their date and timestamps can be exactly right, or they can be off by a significant margin. So the best practice, and what I did in this case, is I will ask to see their live view, and the live view typically has a timestamp, as it did in this case, and then I will use my cell phone, my work cell phone's location time, or my work cell phone's time, and if they match up, then to me that indicates that the timestamp is probably relatively reliable, particularly if I'm there just the day after the video that I'm looking for.
In this case, was the date timestamp correct for that Burger King?
Yes, that's right.
Did you then ask to watch the surveillance video from that morning of July 11th?
I did.
And as you were watching it, did you see a red SUV and a person that appeared to be Lori Vallow going through the drive-thru?
I did.
Do you recall about what time you saw that happen?
I want to say the timestamp on that is around 7:20 something.
Is it 7:54?
7:54 that is probably correct, yes.
So if you're looking at a timestamp at 7:54 and you know the 911 call is at 8:36, are you already starting to wonder what's going on here?
Yes, this was one of the concerns that led us to pursue this avenue of investigation.
And you're aware that Lori Vallow had told Detective Ynclan that she had left right after Charles was shot.
That is what I was told.
So if she left right after he was shot, she somehow is already at Burger King more than 40 minutes after the shooting, before the 911 call.
Correct.
Did you look at various channels from that surveillance video at Burger King?
I did.
And did you also ask to obtain a receipt from her purchase?
I did.
If I can have my paralegal approach with 217 and 218.
Thank you.
We're looking at 217 and 218. Did those contain affidavits from Burger King authenticating both the recording and the receipt?
They do.
And is that from the Burger King that you went to obtain that video and that receipt?
It is.
The state will move to admit 217 and 218.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
217 and 218 are admitted.
Now, just so we know, although we have the video right there and that's been admitted, did you create a PowerPoint we're going to get to in a bit that actually includes the relevant portions of that video in it?
I did.
Okay. So ultimately, we have 7:54-ish that you see Lori Vallow going through the Burger King. Were you then ever asked to meet with Lori Vallow to get that hotel key still on the 12th here?
Yes, that's correct.
Where did you meet with her?
I met with her at the Four Peaks house.
Okay. Do you recall meeting with her there around 2:10 in the afternoon on July 12th?
Yes, that's right.
Did she provide you with a key card to a hotel, or what looked like a key card to a hotel.
She did.
Do you see that person who gave you Charles Vallow's key card in the courtroom today?
I do.
And can you point her out and identify what she's wearing?
Yes. She's sitting at the defense table wearing a black blazer.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
It shall.
Now, at this time, you had already watched the Burger King video that we've discussed. Did she appear to be the same person you saw driving that red Kia Sorento?
Yes, that's correct.
And when you went to the residence at 5531 South Four Peaks, did you see a red Kia Sorento at that residence?
I did.
And did that have Colorado license plates of BRS 084?
It did.
Did that appear to match the vehicle you also saw going through the drive-thru of that Burger King?
It did.
When you got the key card, did you then meet up with Detective Moffett to go to the hotel?
Correct.
And was that the True Hilton at 1950 South Santan Village Parkway in Gilbert?
Yes.
When you went there, were you able to verify that that's where Charles Vallow was staying?
Yes, I believe Detective Moffett spoke to them, but then we were directed to a room. To a room.
So were you present with Detective Moffett during that?
I was present, yes.
Okay. And so you were provided with a room number where he was staying?
Yes.
And were you provided, well, you had a room key already to get in there?
Correct.
Did you, while you were there or later, obtain both an affidavit and record showing that Charles Vallow had stayed at that hotel?
Yes.
If I can have my paralegal approach with 219.
Thank you.
Does 219 contain an affidavit authenticating the reservation and room information for Charles Vallow at that True Hilton Hotel?
It does.
And that's the hotel you had gone to with the key card that you got from the defendant?
Yes, that's correct.
The state will move to admit, and I forget what number that is. Is that 219? Sorry.
This is 219.
State will move to admit 219.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
219 is admitted.
And if I can publish that,
Go
we
ahead.
all know. Thank you. Okay. So let's pull out a little. We see this is from in Exhibit 219, the True Hilton at 1950 South Santan.
Yes.
And did this show that Charles Vallow arrived on the 10th and was supposed to leave on the 13th?
Yes, that's correct.
And then were you also provided with information that this was Charles Vallow's room?
Yes, that's right.
Did you and Detective Moffett go into room 127?
We did.
And when you went in there, what was inside?
There were items that I understood to belong to Mr. Vallow. That was our primary reason for being there, was to secure them. A backpack, 2 suitcases, I believe, at least 1 laptop computer. I assisted in gathering these up and impounding them.
Okay. So all of those items were brought to the Chandler Police Department and impounded.
That's right.
Okay. After you had gone to the True Hilton Hotel, did you also learn that the defendant had told Detective Ynclan that she had stopped at a Walgreens to buy some flip-flops?
Initially, I was told a CVS. Whether I misunderstood or there was a miscommunication, I initially believed it was a CVS.
So did you try to locate a CVS in the generic area that you're looking at of the Burger King and the school?
I did. I tried actually 7 different CVS locations trying to locate video and wasn't able to.
So at that point, you were unable to verify that initially.
Correct.
Were you then asked to review the GPS data that was extracted from Charles Vallow's cell phone?
I was.
Did you have anything to do with extracting the data from his cell phone?
I did not.
Can you talk to us about this GPS data that's part of this extraction? Like, do all cell phones give us GPS data?
As an end user and the person who doesn't do the extraction, depending on a particular user's settings, particularly if we're talking about smartphones, phones equipped with a GPS module and where that GPS module is working, they may record the GPS location of the device for various reasons, depending on the settings. I, for example, keep my GPS location off, so you would not expect to find very many GPS recorded locations on my device. Many people keep them on. I find it's quite common. If so, then the people in the computer forensics unit are able to extract data from the phone to include logged GPS locations, and then can produce that in a report, which as an end user, I can view the latitude, longitude that was recorded by the device for one reason or another, and the date and time that it was recorded by the device. And that gives us GPS locations to look at for where the device may have been.
So for Charles Vallow's phone, were you, through that extraction, provided with, I'll call it ongoing GPS data location for his phone on July 11th?
Yes, so there were GPS locations recorded on the device for July 11th, which was the time period of interest, and I was able to look at those.
Okay, so did you look and see if there were GPS location device information on the phone for other dates as well?
I did not do that.
You're just looking at the date of this shooting?
Correct.
And when we talk about the device, so this is telling you not who has the device, just where the device is.
That's right.
When you were looking at that GPS data from the extraction of Charles Vallow's phone, did you discover that Lori Vallow may have actually gone to a Walgreens?
I did.
Based upon looking at that information, did you find an address at 785 South Cooper Road that corresponded to a Walgreens where you saw the device at around 8:15 a.m. on July 11th?
I did.
Based upon seeing that GPS data, did you go to that Walgreens?
Yes, I initially called. I eventually went.
After going to 7 CVS, you decided to call?
I decided to call.
And when you called, did you learn that they did in fact, well, what did you do? How did they know what you're even looking for?
I called, asked to speak to a manager, as I will often do in things like this, and said, I don't tell them specifically why, but I'm looking to see if a person came through, and I provide a general description of that person and what it is that they may have purchased. Usually that's enough. That's what I did in this case. That's enough for them to find if they do or don't have that transaction on video. That's what I did.
So you have the time and the date, the 8:15 and July 11th, and you just give them a description and see if they can find anything that matches?
Correct.
Did they advise you they did?
They did.
Did you go to that Walgreens and obtain a copy of that surveillance footage?
I did.
From multiple cameras?
Correct.
Did you also obtain a copy of the receipt of her purchase?
I did.
My paralegal can approach with 216. And so looking at 216, do you see an affidavit for that Walgreens that you contacted regarding obtaining both the surveillance video and the receipt, as well as a copy of the receipt and the video itself?
I do.
Your Honor, the state will move to admit Exhibit 216.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
216 is admitted.
And if I can publish the receipt portion. So for this receipt, it advises that at 8:19, there was a purchase for 2 different pairs of flip-flops.
Yes,
Okay. And that corresponded to what you observed on the video that is in this exhibit as well?
yes, that's correct.
In watching this video, did you recognize the person making that purchase?
I did.
And who did you recognize that to be?
I recognized Ms. Lori Vallow at the time, now Ms. Daybell, from having seen the body-worn video and also having met her in person.
Okay. And the video that you obtained here, did you also incorporate that into a PowerPoint presentation that you created showing the GPS data location from July 11th of 2019?
I did.
When you, well, let me ask you, so did you create a PowerPoint presentation of the GPS data from Charles Vallow's cell phone for July 11th of 2019?
I did.
When you were creating this PowerPoint, did you use any phone records for other individuals such as Lori Vallow?
I did.
When you were creating this PowerPoint, did you utilize cell phone records? And I think you talked to us about the difference here, and cell tower data that was provided to you by the providers. And by providers, I mean like a T-Mobile or an AT&T.
Those records were provided to Chandler Police Department, not to me directly. I later obtained copies that I used to incorporate in my presentation.
So were you aware of search warrants that were issued to obtain cell phone records to include cell tower data for several different individuals?
Yes,
So in your PowerPoint presentation, did you utilize GPS data that was for Lori Vallow's Verizon cell phone with a phone number of 808-755-5452?
one minor clarification. I wouldn't
Sure.
call it GPS data particularly. There's location
Cell tower
data,
data.
correct, but not specifically derived via GPS, as was the data from Mr. Vallow's phone.
And if I can have Exhibit 222. In Exhibit 222, do we see both an affidavit authenticating Lori Vallow's Verizon cell phone records for that 808-755-5452? Thumb drive of all of the phone records?
Yes, it does.
And does it also include some printouts from those records themselves?
Yes, it does.
State will move to admit 222 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
222 is admitted.
Did you utilize then some of the cell tower data that was provided by Verizon in those records for Lori Vallow's cell phone in your PowerPoint presentation?
I did.
Did you also become aware of the police executing a search warrant for another cell phone associated to Lori Vallow with T-Mobile for 480-692-9562?
Yes.
Were you provided with those records so that you could also look at the cell tower usage of that phone on July 11th?
Yes.
If my paralegal can approach with 220. Looking at Exhibit 220, is there an affidavit in there from T-Mobile
Yes, there is.
related to, again, Lori Vallow? 480.
That's correct.
Does it also include a thumb drive of all the records in there,
It does.
as well as some of the records printed out?
Yes, it does.
The state will move to admit Exhibit 220.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
220 is admitted.
If I can just do one more. Before we
Go ahead.
Were you also made aware that search warrants were executed to obtain Verizon cell phone records for Alexander Cox for a phone number of 480-3? Did you utilize those records and the cell tower data that was part of them in your PowerPoint presentation for July 11th of 2019?
Yes.
And if I can have my paralegal approach with 221. Looking at 221, do you see an affidavit there from Verizon for the Verizon cell phone records for 480-310-9120?
I see an affidavit, but I see this is the number ending 5452.
And if you can look at is there a second affidavit in there?
Yes, this does include 9120, but I saw on the envelope here, it lists the
And
other
there's-
number.
Perfect. So there's an affidavit in there for the 9120 number
There is.
associated with Alexander Cox.
Yes,
And there's also a thumb drive in there of all the phone records associated with, again, that number 480-310-9120.
yes,
And those were, again, records that you utilized in creating your PowerPoint for
Yes.
July 11th. The state will move to admit Exhibit 221.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
221's admitted.
Now, you talked to us earlier about your training and experience in using GPS data and cell tower data, correct?
yes.
When you are looking at either GPS data from a cell phone or cell tower data from a provider, do you try to verify the accuracy of that information by comparing it to other sources?
Absolutely.
For instance, you told us that you were using the GPS data from Charles Vallow's cell phone and you went to Burger King.
Correct.
And were you looking at the times to see if the GPS data and time matched what you saw in that video?
Yes, with one slight correction. I went to the Burger King initially because it was the closest one. Later, when I was given the GPS data, I looked and saw that it did, in fact, accord to the Burger King. And then I went to the Walgreens because of what I had seen in the GPS data. In either direction that you do that in, essentially what I'm trying to do is make sure just because a device has logged a location at a particular date and time doesn't have to mean it was there. The device could be wrong. It could have been changed in some way. One of the things that we do to make sure that we are relying on good data only is to find other means of corroborating if the device was apparently at that location.
Thank you. So I have this plugged in here, if I can just admit it, but did you provide the state with Exhibit 209, that is a thumb drive of your PowerPoint printer?
Yes.
Did you sign, and I think put your badge number on the back of it?
Yes, that's correct.
And that's something you created that we've talked about, incorporating all of these different records that we've discussed.
That's correct.
Your Honor, the state will move to admit Exhibit 209 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
209 is admitted.
Might be a good time to break
Right.
before we start with this.
All right, let's take our noon recess. I'll remind the jury of the admonition. We'll resume with the jury at 1:30 p.m.
All rise for the jury.
Okay, we'll just wait to see if he says anything to the attorneys before they leave, once the jurors are out. But, looks like we're going on break for the lunch, which means we'll be ending this stream and starting the afternoon stream. But I concur. I do often find that this type of digital forensics, cell phone data, PC, Google searches, all your social posts, the GPS, location devices, all of this is prominent in most cases these days, along with DNA testing. It's like the crust of any case these days. And with technology advancing the way it is, it gets more and more interesting. A lot of hearings these days are in regards to bringing new technology that's never been in court prior, So, all right, they are out to lunch. Definitely out to lunch for now. So I'm just going to check for any questions, and then we'll just end this one and start the next one before they come back within the hour. They're in Arizona, and they don't acknowledge daylight savings, which is why they are 3 hours behind us. So it is 12:36 in Maricopa County, Arizona. Permanently, I think. Just Rhonda, she says, well, Lori's out to lunch. Yeah, all the time. Yeah. Reference, cross-reference, verify, and re-verify. Yes, that was wonderful testimony, making sure that all of the evidence that's used in the PowerPoint presentation, because that's what he did in Idaho, and it was great. And she keeps referencing it, so I hope we get to see it after lunch, But on that, I'm going to end this, get it all time stamped up. If there's no questions, I hope to see you all after lunch over there. Get a stretch, get something to drink, get something to eat, and then buckle up, because I think Lori's going to have a lot to challenge here. I think not challenge like successfully, but I think she's going to do a lot of pushback, because this is actually quite damning evidence. It actually shows where she was when she was, and some of it contradicts statements that she made. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So we'll see everybody after that. If there's no questions, I don't see any. And Chair, it's nice of you to join us. And Rhonda, Teresa, Shill, Liam, Couch, those other Maggie, Katie, everybody. I hope to see you all this afternoon. Tomorrow, kiddo, if you're still around. It's a hard one. If not, catch the replay. And don't forget, if you do think of questions later, you may put them on the back of any of these videos. I check all comments, and I really want to hear from you, because if I can get the information, I want you to have it. And I do enjoy the discussions, good or bad. Even if you have suggestions, constructive criticism is always welcome. I can't get better if I don't know. Yeah. So, all right, we will see. And let's hope that this feed stays good, right? Right? let's just put it out there for good vibes for an excellent feed for the afternoon. Okay, we'll see you then.